Hello and welcome to the Daredevil Born Again official podcast. I'm Ayelet Zurer, and I portray the First Lady of New York and wife of Kingpin, Vanessa Fisk. Every week we're digging into each episode of Season 2, sharing behind-the-scenes stories and chatting with the cast and crew of Marvel Television's Daredevil Born Again, now streaming on Disney+. On today's show, we're discussing all of the heartbreak in episode 5. I'm excited to be joined by Executive Producer Sana Amanat. Afterwards, we'll chat with the series composers, the Newton brothers, to gain some insight into the iconic musical score. But first, here's a recap of all the characters' redefining moments that went down in episode 5. So if you haven't watched, stop and come back after you've watched it. I highly recommend it. Do I really have to do it? Maybe Sana, you can step in.
I'm happy to. You've been through a lot.
Thank you.
This episode.
Thank you. Oof.
Lots of emotions, lots of laying in hospital beds.
Yes.
It was a tough one. I'm happy to do
A lot of flat
it.
stuff.
Okay, right out of the gate, we know Vanessa's in serious trouble. She's rushed to the hospital where a team of doctors frantically tries to save her life while a devastated Fisk watches on. Very, very heartbreaking. And from there, the episode really tells 4 stories. In flashbacks, we see the foundations of Vanessa's relationship with Fisk, starting at an art gallery with that beautiful white painting. We also learn about the foundations of Matt and Foggy's partnership, revolving around one doomed criminal's fate who finds himself in Fisk's crosshairs. In the end, Foggy sacrifices their law firm's startup capital to give the man a second chance. In the present day, Daniel Blake gets a taste of what Buck Cashman's capable of, taking a very long drive out to the country to handle some dirty business. And luckily for Daniel, he ends up on the right side of a deep hole. Meanwhile, Daredevil decides to save Bullseye's life, which is not necessarily the most popular decision back at his and Karen's hideout. After an episode of zigzagging flashbacks and near-death experiences, it all comes back to the hospital, to Fisk and to Vanessa. As her heart monitor starts to beep, she stares at the white painting one more time, in a dream or somewhere else, and then she's gone. So, yes, that was tough. Okay, so episode 205, it was a big one.
It was a big one.
It was devastating.
On so many levels.
And we're here. How do you feel? Do you hate us? Are you mad at us?
I'm
What
not
did we
mad
do?
at you. Why?
It was an emotional one. I've never
I
thought I
know.
would actually cry for Kingpin.
Did you?
I did. Every
That's a
version
good-
of the cut I have watched, I have teared up.
That makes me happy.
Yeah.
Because I feel like, beyond the bad guys element, I think the love affair is so unique and larger than life.
What were you feeling? And I know we've talked a lot on set and we've had many, many conversations.
Yeah.
And even in those final moments, we were very clear we wanted it to be very sacred and quiet.
Yeah.
But what were you feeling just going into the episode and knowing what was coming?
I went through the 10, how many stages of grief? 10?
10?
10
5?
stages? 5? Anyways, I went through them.
I was like, I think I've read.
Do you remember the calls?
Yes.
You called me.
Yes.
And Dario called me.
Yeah.
And you were very kind in saying the why you needed it. But I really understood story-wise why. But it was really sad because for me, this was such a long journey. It was saying goodbye to a path in my life in a way. And to Vincent as Fisk, and the whole thing was actually very emotional for me. It's funny, I get emotional when I think about it now.
Yeah. I've been such a fan of the show prior to me joining it. Like, I only came on Born Again, and I came on while we were figuring out season 1 and so many changes, and everybody knows about all that. But for me, I was also very protective of all of these characters, and it was such a thrill to be able to have you back and to have you taken away was also so emotional and so difficult. But you were so gracious, and I think you and Vincent have this very special bond. He says the kindest, best things about you when you're not in the room.
Aw,
and it's
that's nice.
It's true chemistry. So, I mean, what has that been like? And what was it like before? And what is it like now?
Well, I think Vincent knows my work outside of Daredevil, and I think that's, I would say, more a supporter of my work.
Yeah.
But I think, first of all, we both are cancers.
Yeah.
We have 2
I'm a
days
Cancer.
of no way.
I think I knew this already, but
Anyway, so
No,
it
now I
feels
get
to me like there's an unspoken existence that goes between us and
Yeah.
was from the
Yeah.
start. I remember the first day we came to the meeting. We met
Yeah.
in New York and
Yeah.
at the office, and
Yeah.
we were asked to sit down, and they, approached us and asked, how is it going to work out? And he just looked at me and says, well, we're going to listen to each other and react. And it's exactly what we've been doing the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
There's something between us that doesn't need a lot of explanation.
Mm-hmm.
Too much could go wrong.
Got a matched set. I should be there tonight.
I'll call you when it's over.
It's just very, very natural, and there's tremendous respect. So we listen, and we are allowing ourselves to be affected, just like any other genre, like a regular drama. So
Yeah.
I think that really sips into the character, and it was also very interesting to see the evolution of like what he has done with Fisk and how that sort of impacted me
Yeah.
as Vanessa, because I didn't realize where it was going. But
Yeah.
the minute he started doing the voice and the movement and his size and the heels and all that,
Yeah.
it became just a thing,
There's a rhythm to the both of your performances that
Yeah.
really complement each other. Even the way you do certain things, which I love. Like I know so much about the way that you perform, and I love it. But you just, even like, there was the episode in 4 when you turn to him and you're like, good luck.
Good luck.
You're so elegant and cunning when you do these just
Yeah.
little lines,
Yeah.
but it complements the way that he is. Like, you
Yeah.
just have found this really beautiful, like,
Because we're I think somewhat. I always feel like I'm in a 40s movies, like,
I love it.
that's what I
It's
feel
so
for
good.
Vanessa. And that with this modernism of the style of the show becomes really intriguing and
Yeah.
different.
Yeah.
I have to ask you though, I know how protective you were for
Yes.
any female character. I know how important they are to you. So can you tell me about how you guys thought that Vanessa
Decided.
has to go, and like how soon did you realize that when you started developing in season 2?
So it was, I mean, I don't think we realized that she was going to go. There was conversations about, is she not well? Like, is there something else? There was a conversation, the comics that some of this is influenced by, which is a combination of like the Mayor Fisk run and Devil in Cell Block D. Vanessa gets sick. And I
Yes.
remember the moment, and there's a really great line in the comics, which when we were talking about all of this, because we're realizing it feels like this might have to be it, because we've never made Fisk face a tragedy of this
Nature,
this
yeah.
caliber, yes, of this nature. It's just so big, and we needed to shake up our characters in the same way. Foggy died, which is very controversial, and we're very aware how controversial it is. So nothing has been as impactful except for probably his father and Wesley, which was a big moment for him. And I think Vanessa transcends all of that. There's a great line in the comics, which I don't want to give too much away because people should read these comics, but there's a great line where Vanessa, who was in charge of Foggy's death, and in the comics, she goes to Matt and she says, ultimately, this is my husband's fault, this is Wilson's fault, and your fault, because the fight between the two of you are poison. And I remember reading that and thinking, oh, yes, it's this never-ending cycle, and everyone around them are paying the price for this obsession, this poisonous obsession that they have for one another, which is, for better or for worse, never ending.
Yeah.
And that's what Matt ultimately will realize. And that's really why we realized for it had to happen to Foggy. It was inevitable to happen to Vanessa.
Yeah.
They're not safe. No one is safe. And it was the hardest decision because for me, the return of Vanessa, and Vanessa being not just the wife, her being involved,
Yeah.
and also the fact that she did. I would have loved to see.
Spin-off.
Yeah, I would
There
have
you
loved to
go.
see flashbacks also just of like, what was Vanessa
Yeah.
doing when, like,
Yeah.
that first scene in season 1?
Yeah.
I love that intro where
Yeah.
you're just sitting there and you're running the gangs and your husband comes in and kind of ruins everything. Like, I love that scene. And so for me, it was like, oh, great. We got her to a place where she wasn't just the girlfriend. She wasn't just the wife. So it was a really tough pill to be like, we have to. But emotionally, it kind of all tracked.
For Fisk.
For
the character to really explode.
For the two of them, for the dynamic of like Daredevil and Kingpin and the whirlwind that they've created, and like, who would Vanessa have been if she didn't meet him?
She would become very dark, I think. Because I think there were only two paths for her.
Yeah.
One is the path of regret.
Yeah.
And understanding that this road doesn't lead to where she wants to be.
Yeah.
The Greece, the dream of everything that we have is just us. Us is enough. And the other would have been her becoming a master of darkness.
Yes. Yeah.
In a way.
What did you make of the flashback of her in the art gallery and sort of like, just kind of going back to the original and all of that? I know we had our own behind the scenes
I
stuff
loved
going.
it. I loved it. I loved it. I know this was a tough, episode to pull because we all had so many flashbacks, and flashbacks are complicated when you have age, and you have to also go back to where the character was at the beginning of that journey. So I feel like this was something I was looking for because I was so used to having Vanessa as part of Fisk, and to go back into the beginning where she was before him.
Yeah.
I never really had that. My first moment on the show was, hello there.
Hello there. Yeah.
Never alone. And that's actually part of her character. She cannot be alone. So that was really interesting for me, but I really enjoyed finding it, but also in a way where, is it really the past? Or is it her now dreaming of the past?
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of her now, the snake-like, the manipulation.
That's what I loved
that
about
thing.
it. Yeah.
So eventually, what really impacted the decision or what to do with it was the feeling of, okay, I'm already somewhere else, so I'm going to take that in and put that in the mix.
And what I loved about it is, like, I think often people think, oh my God, if she met this person and she became such a dark person. And I'm like, no, this scene actually showed that she had this manipulation in her, and she kind of met her match.
Yeah, exactly.
In that way.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I loved about it, is
Yeah.
showing her in this space where she can go from vulnerable to cunning so quickly, which is, I think, what makes Vanessa so interesting.
In the first scene, the one that you mentioned, the first episode of Born Again, when she sits with the men.
Yes.
Yeah, and then he comes in and sits down. I remember on set, he was very, very emotional, and I kept having this vision of him, and he was laughing at me when I told him at the end of it that I see him as a donut with a hole in it, and I'm like the part of the donut that's...
Yes. Wait, did you say that on set? I feel like you said that.
I said that on set. That the more he was talking, the more I felt like the hollow part of him.
Yeah.
That's me there.
You're a match, and you kind of complete one another, and you complement one another.
Yeah. I need the surrounding.
Yeah.
His surrounding, his skin around me.
Yeah.
To be existing in a way that I am.
Yeah.
And he needs me to be the inside of it. It's like the protection. It's sort of the way that we need each other.
Well, that's also why I love not to go back to season 1, but some of the therapy scenes that you guys had together, because I haven't seen it. They played off of each other so well.
One of my favorite parts of the show, to be honest.
But it was great. I mean, I think this episode feels, this was a tough one on many levels, because we were talking about, I think, the two jewels in both of our, like these heroes, I use hero loosely with Kingpin, but the two jewels in their lives with Foggy and Vanessa, and how similar, and how Vanessa deciding to say, no, I'm going to kill Foggy, it doesn't matter, this ripple effect that has happened. That was the intention of this episode, which I hope really comes across. But it was a challenging one for so many, because there were so many emotions involved. And I think there's so many emotions the fans are going to have reacting to this episode.
I'm sure.
So, I mean, I guess I would love to get just your impression of, this entire episode being one flashback. On one side, obviously, you have Vanessa at the precipice of life and death.
Yeah.
And then on the other side is finally us seeing Foggy after so long. And Foggy being a meaningful, I think, morality compass for Matt Murdock.
All I know is if he goes to jail, he dies.
And all I know is that might not be our problem.
Unfortunately, it is now.
These two characters, Foggy and Vanessa, who rarely really interacted in previous scenes, but are forever entwined because of what Vanessa decided to do, which is kill him. Yeah. How do you interpret sort of these two worlds, and what did you bring to help kind of amplify that story?
I feel like it's the consequence of choices. Mm-hmm. And also, the minute Vanessa made a choice and took a path, that path affected everyone. But before that, there were other choices made that created that opportunity to make that choice.
Right.
So even though they're paralleled in their emotional effect and connection to the other character, to Fisk and to Matt, I feel that they are the heartbeat of the characters in a way. Do you know what I mean? So there's a consequence and choice, but there's also like the heartbeat. And it's really interesting that it ended up with a monitor and the heartbeat.
I know.
Because both of them are sort of the heartbeat.
So well said. Because what happens when that goes away for both of them? I think that's where it can get a little
iffy.
A little scary.
Yeah, because what happens to you once you lose everything you love?
Yeah. The one thing that you love too.
The one thing that
Fisk,
really,
it's like the one thing.
For him, the one thing.
Yeah.
And I think for Matt in a way too. I mean, there's lots of ladies, right, in his life, but there's one really solid relationship with Foggy.
Yeah.
That I'm sure the audience would love.
I know.
You know, when he's coming back. It's
That's what we had to bring him back too, because we really wanted to, I love that we were able to strip down this episode and focus on the people that are, like you said, the heartbeats of, I think, the show at large, right?
Yeah.
Like I feel like when you think about it, it's Matt, it's Karen, Foggy, Vanessa, Fisk.
Yes.
Like that's kind of what the show,
and,
if you look at it in sort of the.
But you also did something interesting. You came out of the time frame and you came out of the space, because also we sort of venture out into the world where I think it challenges the space of the city.
Yeah.
Where the whole story took place and shakes everything around and then goes back to the table, with Buck and Daniel.
Yeah. The thing about the Buck and Daniel, and then the scenes were so good with Buck and Daniel. Like, I love the two of them. I love those actors. I mean, Artie and Michael are just amazing. And what I loved about it is, like, I feel like they represented that push and pull that Matt Murdock and Wilson Fisk. They represent the repercussions of the choices, like you said, that they have made. Yeah. And what they're going to do because of that. Buck has made his choice. What choice is Daniel going to make? I think that, to me, is what works so well. But I want to talk we've had many conversations on set about your perspective of Vanessa.
Yes.
Especially this season. I would love for you to share a little bit about, like, what were you thinking going into the season, and what did you bring to the character specifically, knowing that she was going to come to an end?
I always struggled with the fact that Vanessa had a lover.
Yeah.
I had to find a different reason for why she's done that.
Yeah.
And I think she's done everything because of love. It's also almost like a little challenging. If you love me so much, you'll accept me with that.
Yeah.
So it always was from a perspective of love.
Yeah.
Once that took place and you guys made a decision that she's going, like in the fork, she's going into light rather than darkness.
Yeah.
I realized that it's regret that drives a lot of her deep emotion, and the question of, is she enough? And realizing she's not. And I think for her, it really is like a devastating realization, because she realizes that he's hungry in ways that she'll never be.
Yeah, he can never be satiated, yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So in a way, it's inevitable.
Yeah.
So it could be now, or it could be in the near future, or in the future, but her end, or something bad, is meant to be, you know. So that felt like a bad omen of some sort, sitting on my shoulder the whole time, like realizing, pushing it away, but realizing, pushing it away. In a way, I think that's what was driving my internal life.
Yeah.
And at the same time, the regret, understanding that the situation cannot be solved any longer. It's too late.
Yeah.
But then I took another step into thinking that in a way she's protecting him by taking the hit. Almost like she steps into the arena knowing that maybe in some ways she's going to protect him, but also maybe get hurt.
Yeah.
And so in a way, I think it's genuinely protecting him, you know, the hope. And I don't think it's even conscious for her. I think it's sort of subconscious, the whole thing.
Yeah, but you played it in a way that you felt like, and you said this to me early on. I was like, oh, I'm not sure. And you're like, she knows what's coming.
Yeah.
Like she knows in some ways she's kind of pulling it towards her.
Yeah.
I thought that was interesting because like even just in the performances, we're sitting in all these cuts and I'm like, oh, she knows something else. And in some ways you could say she's yearning for the freedom to go to the, or she's yearning for an out. We don't know.
Yeah.
But I think there was a piece in the way that she went that was so heartbreaking and so beautiful. And there was like an innocence in your last few, oh my God, the pineapple juice.
Yeah.
I'd like a pineapple juice with ice.
You don't like pineapple.
I don't.
No, your lips, it makes them tingle, I believe.
Let's try anyway.
She goes back to who she really was at the beginning, I feel
Yeah.
like. Yeah. The real one, not the one that she dreamt she was, I feel, for me.
Yeah.
I don't like to say to people too much, you know, to the audience, I don't want to explain because
Yeah.
it doesn't matter. The way they experience
Yeah,
is
let
is
them
the way.
interpret it, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But for me, it goes back to what she really was. And it brings me back to the first time that I looked for something for the character, and I'll never forget that. It was a picture, like it was a black and white picture I found online of a child bending over a dead fish with a really wide open mouth and peeking into the mouth.
Oh my
With
God.
like
Oh my God.
some sort of like no fear, just
Yeah.
you know.
That's amazing.
So that was the picture, and I thought, oh, that's Vanessa.
Yeah, that is 100%. That's
Isn't it?
Vanessa.
So when I went back to the end, I thought about that child too.
Yeah, it's when she brought a gun to their first date.
Yes.
With Kingpin.
Tiny little.
A tiny little thing. Yeah, it is so good. Okay, so we're gonna play a game now.
Okay.
Because I know how much you love games. Wicked Vanessa loves her games.
Yes, for sure.
So we've got Truth or Daredevil, and I'm gonna ask you Truth or Daredevil.
Truth.
Truth. Okay, here we go.
Yum, yum, yum.
Yum yum yum. Okay, who's the real boss, you or Kingpin?
Come on.
Come on.
Come on.
We know this.
He's the boss.
No,
He's the boss. He's the boss. I
Hard to
can
disagree.
move the needle on the on the device a little bit.
I disagree.
But-
I'm going to respectfully disagree, and I think you're the boss. Vincent, you heard me. She's the
You
boss.
can't be Vincent's boss. There's no Vincent boss. There's nothing like that exists. Okay, Truth, Daredevil.
Okay, so I'm gonna Daredevil it up.
Really?
Yeah, why not?
All right, let me see. Cast or crew member easiest to make laugh.
To make laugh?
To make laugh.
I think maybe Michael Gandolfini and or
Yes.
Charlie.
Agreed.
Michael, who plays Daniel.
Yeah.
He's just such a lovable person, and I think he wants to just enjoy everything. I will say also Wilson Bethel also loves to
Yes.
laugh and
Yes.
make jokes.
But I agree with the first one.
And my jokes are bad, so.
I don't even compete. I'm not in the game even.
Okay, Truth or Daredevil?
Daredevil.
There she goes. There she goes acting like a boss. Okay, cast member most likely to burst into song.
Vincent as Fisk.
I can't imagine Kingpin
Yeah.
singing. You
Dance
think
and sing. I mean,
so? I-
Frank Sinatra or
Yeah,
something
that's
crazy
true.
like that. Yeah.
That's true.
Wild.
I know. I feel like we should have been singing more on set or something.
He should sing Frank. Okay,
Figure
Truth.
I'm gonna do truth.
Just yes.
Just
Okay.
yes. Yes to
Just-
the truth.
Best place you've ever been on a work trip.
Oh my.
To me, that is funny.
That is the most appropriate question anyone can ever ask me because I don't think I've been on vacation in like
In front of the computer.
I haven't been on vacation
Somewhere
in
on the
years.
plane. Where?
Thailand.
Thailand.
Yeah, I shot Miss Marvel in Thailand. But
Yeah.
It was amazing. We got to shoot everything. Production value was amazing there. So
Yeah.
Miss Marvel is on Disney Plus. Do you want to watch it? Also a great series. Your turn. Truth or Daredevil?
Truth.
Yes, I like that. It's a good choice. Who do you wish you shared more scenes with? That's a good question.
Oh, Karen.
Karen?
Deborah. Yes.
Yeah.
We were always hanging out together in New York, having dinners, and I always said to her, I wish I had scenes with you.
She's great.
Yeah, she's great. And also, I've seen her, development as an actress, and
Yeah.
I think she's fabulous and really unique. And I think she's a superstar.
It's so funny you say that because I, very late in the game, had a pitch for the two of you guys. It was too late. And I regret it.
Don't
And
tell
I know, and I
her. Oh my
regret
God.
it. And I regret
That
it
would
so
be
bad because
so
I'm
nice.
like, oh, I know. I'm so
Next time.
sorry. Anyway.
Sana, that was lovely. Thank you so much
yeah.
for having me, and
Thank
I
you.
enjoyed every moment working with you.
I love working with you.
And I'm very thankful for how protective you were of me in the first season. And
I'm grateful for you. I feel very lucky to have the moments we've had on set together. I feel lucky to have you back in our world, and for what you bring, you just make us better.
thank you.
So thank you for everything, and thank you for playing our silly little game. I'm so happy, and as a fan, that we have the Newton brothers, Andy and Taylor, with us, who have scored 2 seasons of Daredevil Born Again.
Yes.
We have put you through all of it. And we're so lucky that you stuck with us. What was the first thing that you did with this? Was it X-Men?
X-Men
It was
97.
X-Men 97.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was like a dream. I remember when we got the call, like, would we be interested to demo? And I mean, in 8th grade, I used to ride my bicycle to the bookstore to buy comics because my parents wouldn't allow me to buy comics. So I would buy Daredevil, X Factor at the time because X Factor was new in 1988.
And then X-Men 97 was on TV.
Yeah. And so when this came up, I mean, we kind of just dove in and wrote demos and
And
just
you
thought
said yes.
we said yes, we wrote demos and just, we
Prayed.
we just
Hopefully.
and prayed. Yeah.
Cross our fingers.
There's so much history in like what we went through together, especially the beginning
Yes.
of season 1 and all the
Yeah.
iterations. But like, I think let's talk about 205 because
Yeah.
this is a big episode, and I was speaking with Ayelet earlier, and just the emotional heft of what this was, and the scripts have been crafted, but you guys are so integral to making this a beautiful story in the fullest form it possibly can be. And I tell you guys every time I hear the music, and I'm like, oh my God, I love
you.
everything that you do.
Oh, man.
But what was it when you got this episode? What was going on in your head from a creative perspective? What you wanted to bring as musicians?
Oh my God, it's foggy.
Oh my God. Oh my God, you and everybody.
I think it was interesting how, and we talked about this, about crafting, connecting the storylines and
Yeah.
how they connected in so much tragedy, loss, especially of when you sort of fall for villains and you feel bad for them. That's when you really have something, because you shouldn't feel bad for the villains. And I think
Yeah.
you guys really did that, and you crafted a story like that. So musically, we really wanted to complement that sort of story arc. And I feel like that episode has something extra special because of how much everyone goes through and how it comes out in the end.
Yeah.
What's interesting about this episode is the Daniel and Buck of it all, because of what Daniel is realizing about Buck in that scene. He's had these thoughts about Buck, but it's like in this scene, amidst what else is happening in this episode, where you start to recognize like where the edge is for everyone. And I feel
Yeah.
like it's that same edge that Daredevil is trying to figure out when he's in the church. Like, am I going to save this person?
Yeah.
Or am I not? And it's so interesting that like it's dealing with everyone's boundaries.
Who am I?
Yeah. Yes.
And who do I want to become?
And who do I want to become?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And that it really all comes back to
The story, you guys.
Foggy and the story of mercy, right?
Yeah. As musicians, like, what is the first thing that you do when you get a script? Is there a particular process? Do you guys just start riffing and?
I think just off the script, we just see, do we have all the themes to cover this material?
Right.
And then try to get you guys stuff like the Resistance,
Right.
the Dark Karen, even though maybe it's not in this episode, we find that there's a way to tease a little hint of it or something. So that way later on it pays off. And this episode, because it was so emotional, it was a little bit of testing things out and seeing how you guys would respond to it and what you liked. And especially with the Vanessa stuff, I loved how, we were able to strip down in some places to go just piano. And then it sort of tells what's going to happen without it telling. Like, we kind of all decided that, and I think that was great. So, yeah.
It's one of my favorites because she has so many layers.
She does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
and it's interesting with all of the characters. I mean, what you probably don't get to see is like when we're in the studio, even if it's a theme that everyone loves and we know it's an established theme, it doesn't mean it's going to work in the scene. And that's what's really helpful about when you will hum something or say like, I know we're doing this theme here and but something's not right. Like that's a really helpful instinct that is hard to explain, right?
Yeah.
In the morning, are you like getting ready and you have a thought and you're like, oh, is this storyline something that, you know what I mean? And that, because it's very relevant to
You're probably
everything.
thinking about it a lot
all
too.
the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's actually really annoying because I'm constantly like, I'm in the shower and I'm like, oh, this could be a cool idea. Like even like randomly I'll reread comics, and I've read a lot of comics, but I'll go back and I reread things from such a different context.
Yeah.
And so it is constantly like thinking about something I want to talk to Dario about, or even just like musically hearing something and being like, oh, I feel like this is the kind of vibe I want to integrate into the show. And we had to explore that. And to collaborate and go back and forth is really great, especially when we're not speaking the same language necessarily, but we're speaking the same language.
We are.
100%,
I think when you're shooting, do you then think like, what would go good here? And like in your mind, wow.
But I'm always surprised every time that you guys give us something different, because you have all these themes already, but then you have to keep evolving it. Like for 205, you had to do that with Foggy, you had to do that with Vanessa. Like, is that challenging? Like, what do you do?
We love that.
It's fun.
Yeah.
It's cracking the code each time, right? Like finding like
Deconstructing sometimes.
There was this scene in 203 that we were trying to crack, sort of like, what is this? And we figured out, oh, it's the bass guitar, right?
Oh,
and that was like
that was fun.
Like,
that was a fun scene.
Yeah, and that's big props to you and
Yeah.
Dario. Like picked that out as we're playing it back. Like what is that? Like more of that.
Yeah.
This is like a
collaboration.
This is a whole story that we're all creating together. So it's like we really rely on the feedback everybody gives to us to help us sort of figure out what is what, if that makes sense. Because there's a doubt, but it's in a positive way, right? It's not a negative doubt. It's a doubt in like, is this right? I'm not sure. Let's get the rest of the team involved.
And sometimes when the team isn't totally on the same page exactly, and you guys have slightly variations of different things, then something amazing comes out of it that we weren't even thinking of.
Yeah.
And that's really kind of a nice surprise.
Yeah, you guys are so patient too. There's like so many voices in the room, and it is the process, but you guys are really good at being like, oh, I see what you're saying, we can do that, and you riff so well.
I mean, there's so much, all the scenes are just so rich in detail. And I mean, even like in 205, the intercutting that happens at the end.
Yeah.
I mean, was that on the page in the script, or yes and no? Like,
I mean, the idea was kind of there. I think with this one, we really tried to bring, I mean, you guys know, we really tried to make sure that emotionally and like just story-wise, everything was connecting.
Yeah.
But it was really, but ultimately, I think, yes, that's right, with the mercy and all of that.
Yeah.
That wasn't on the page.
Oh, wow.
It was there. We had the script.
Yes.
But we found in the edit we needed to bring it tighter together.
Yeah.
And I think the moment with Mercy and we really needed to make sure that Foggy was that moral anchor for a reminder for Matt Murdock of who he is and who he was.
Yeah.
And he's not the person to leave even his greatest enemy, to die.
I love that.
And he also has to make amends for what he did initially, which is he threw him off the roof. Like,
yeah.
And that's not who Matt Murdock is. So that moment was we really wanted to squeeze it as much as we could. And I think that really came together when you guys ended up scoring it.
What are we celebrating?
Mercy.
Was there anything in 205 that you felt like was a challenge or was emotionally draining?
I felt like the Vanessa stuff at the end, it was unexpected. And I feel like when reading parts of it on the script and then seeing the way you guys shot it, and then when the editors, the way it came together, it was very tragic and very sad. And I just kind of grew to really like that character a lot.
I know.
You know, and then you feel for him, like, is he going to be a better person? You know, obviously in season 1 he isn't, but I didn't expect how much I would care to see that happen. So that, at least for me, when Vanessa went, that was...
Yeah. You don't want to tell people how to feel, you know?
Yeah.
And there's so much happening that it's difficult to have music. You don't want to be like just pointless wallpaper. So it's
Yeah.
almost like you have no music, but then there is an undercurrent of what's happening. So that was kind of tricky to kind of thread that all together.
Yeah, yeah. That was a tough one because it could go cheesy real quick too.
Oh, yeah.
Really quick. Yeah. That's restraint is
Especially
important
with
in
the
that.
foggy stuff, too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I
Absolutely.
think this episode was super hard on so many levels because of Foggy and Vanessa. And Ayelet was talking earlier about choices, and I'm like, oh, that's so true. Like, it is the choices that they've made that have led both of them to this path and to this point, but also the people in their lives have been affected by it. So seeing Eldon, who plays Foggy,
Yeah.
with Matt, seeing them in their like wigs and their looks and everything, I'm like, oh my God, this is actually really emotional.
Yeah.
Like seeing them together again, and it's always like a little like cheeky and cute and everything,
Yeah.
but that actually was really surprising to me. It felt like a really big moment.
Yeah.
And then in the hospital at the very end for
Yeah.
Vanessa,
That was intense.
real intense.
Yeah.
And Vincent was very protective of her, and we were all very protective of her and wanting to keep it very safe and quiet, and
Yeah.
but it felt like it was a big moment.
Vincent at that last scene had me, like, I fell for him. Again, you're feeling bad for the villain.
Villain. There was a moment I remember in season 3, like I think it might be my favorite of the first run. I thought it was really good.
Yeah.
Kingpin was under house arrest in an empty apartment.
Oh yeah.
Bullseye came in and like threw a burger that he had bitten into. Kingpin looks at it, and it's like a sad plastic tray, and there's a little sad burger with like a bitten, like just someone who'd bitten into it. And Vincent had the saddest eyes with such a big man.
He's a big guy.
And I'm like, why do I feel bad for this person? He's terrible. This is a terrible, terrible person.
Yeah.
And he took his plastic fork and knife and he just cut into it. And I love that scene so much.
It's a great scene.
It's so good.
Yeah.
And you see, like, you know, Bullseye, played by Wilson Bethel, like, looking at me like, what the hell is he doing? And to me, that was like it. I'm like, if you can make this terrible, terrible character,
Yeah.
you can feel bad for him. I think we are doing something really special.
Yeah.
Because he's a bad person and he does do bad things, but in his mind, he is not. In his
Yeah.
mind, he's doing the greater good. In his mind, he thinks he's the hero of the city.
Oh, yeah.
I just love that moment, and that was really we have to be in moments where you can see Fisk feel vulnerable.
Oh, yeah.
But we've never gone this far.
It's wild, and you feel.
Yeah.
And we
We've never
talked
gotten
about
this
this
far.
when we watched it down in the room when we were spotting it, like that we were feeling bad at the end
Yeah.
of the episode.
Yeah.
There's a dichotomy to your music where like you actually see the sides of them, and like you see for Vanessa, there is that dark. What was it, Mrs. Kingpin? Was
Yeah,
it?
Mrs.
There's-
K. Yeah.
K.
Mrs. K.
Yeah.
What is that?
The
Was
glissing, the sliding violins.
yes.
Yeah.
And then there's the soft Vanessa.
Yes. Yeah.
Which is the piano.
Yes.
Yes.
But you do that with all of your
Yeah.
music.
Because they're so detailed. The
Yeah.
characters are so
Yeah.
rich.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We knew that she needed more than just a theme because she was so complex. There was so much in season 1, and then it evolved more in season 2, like based on how you guys teed everything up.
Andy Taylor, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having
Thanks
us.
for having
Sana.
us.
Thank you.
Watch and listen to the Daredevil Born Again official podcast, available on Disney Plus and wherever you get your podcasts, and stream season 2 of Marvel Television's Daredevil Born Again on Disney Plus.